All right, you guys. Well, we are waiting for some more people to hop on, but you guys can just kind of trickle in. I'm just going to go ahead and get started. So we start our webinar on time. For those that don't know me, I'm Dr. Jennifer. I am one of the associate docs here at the Wellness Way Sarasota. So thank you for watching. Thank you for joining. My encouragement for you guys is just to take notes when you're watching this. I'm going to kind of, plant a lot of different tips and tricks, just kind of supporting gut health and little facts and statistics that I think are important to know. Knowledge really is power, and that's why you guys chose to join this webinar today, is to find out more, get more knowledge on, the whatever you're facing. A lot of you are here for a different reason. Maybe it's you had a recent diagnosis, or just have been battling gut issues for your whole life. Regardless, something in your head is telling you we're not feeling normal, right? But a lot of what we're told is nothing can be done. Just kind of deal with it. You'll be fine. But a lot of us are going through similar things, similar symptoms, but for different reasons. And that's where it's very individualized care. Our care here that we offer is very individualized. It is not just cookie cutter kind of care. There's 10 of us in the room that can be having the same exact symptom, and it can be all for 10 different reasons. So that's why it's so important to really understand the root cause, and that's what we're going to be focusing on today. So this is our approach, the Wellness Way approach to gut health. I am not going to get into too much of my story. I'll probably plant little seeds of it throughout, but I personally am so passionate about the gut because it is something that I have struggled with for so long, really my whole life, honestly. And so it wasn't until I found the Wellness Way that I finally got answers, and that changed my life. And then so much so that I'm like, you know what, I want to make a profession out of this. So let's go ahead and jump on in. So first things first, we have some lovely images. I'm sorry if you're eating lunch and watching this webinar. But for those that don't know kind of what this is kind of pictures from a colonoscopy. So why I'm bringing this up is because this is a story that it really highlights just the power of kind of what we do. This is a story of a woman named Wendy. She's a 35-year-old who just had this colonoscopy done. And at the same time, she's a mom of 5 young children. So she was having a ton of GI issues, massive digestive problems, IBS. She was having mucus, cramping, blood in her stool, a lot of diarrhea, bloating, constipation, like back and forth, back and forth. So they ended up running a scan on her, and this is what they came back with. And what is all the red stuff? What do we think this is? This is inflammation, right? So when we see red, we're thinking there's something is inflamed, right? So she's very inflamed. And so when she went to her GI doc, what do you guys think that she ended up um, getting prescribed or recommended? Anti-inflammatories, right? So they got her on some anti-inflammatories. And this is where, as far as what do we think that do we think the anti-inflammatories worked? They did work. The anti-inflammatories worked, because that's what they're designed to do. Drugs and prescription medications have one job, and they have one kind of purpose, and that is to alter a specific physiological response in the body. However, that alteration of the body in the body can then lead to a lot of different side effects. That's why there's so many side effects with medications, right? So they put her on some anti-inflammatory. She's 35 years old, getting a colonoscopy. And for her to end up, such a young age to get a colonoscopy, and all they had for her was, we just going to put you on some anti-inflammatories. And do we think the anti-inflammatories worked? They did, right? However, they worked for some time, but then when she ran out of her meds, she ended up just like, maybe it's all healed. Maybe I'm good to go. And then she stopped her anti-inflammatories. And what happened? What came back? It all came back, right? So that all came back. She went back to the GI doc. They were like, you know what? Let's put you on some steroids now. Let's get you on some prednisone. And did prednisone work? Did a steroid work? Yes. Prednisone is designed as an immune suppressant. So they are going to suppress the immune system, which ends up taking away that immune response. But your immune system is responding for some reason, right? Your immune system doesn't act up for no reason. There's always, always, always a why. And that's why it's so important. That's why prednisone and steroids are so detrimental, because if you suppress your immune system over time for long enough, that's the kind of stuff that leads to autoimmune. Okay, cool. Just want to make sure my audio was working. I was like, am I on? So all this to say, she ended up doing 5 rounds of this, on and off meds, steroids, anti-inflammatories, until finally, she was just like, you know what? They were basically like, we don't know what's going on. This keeps coming back. Why don't we our next option is to cut out part of your colon. Does anyone know like what ends up happening when you cut out part of your colon? What you have to do is to get a colostomy bag, which is essentially this little pouch of poop that's going to be on the side of you for the rest of your life. And she is a 35-year-old woman, 5 kids. And you think about how much her life is going to drastically change if she now has a colostomy bag, right? Thinking about wearing a two-piece bathing suit, like you're gonna see the little pouch. You have little kids who just jump and tackle you for no reason. That's going to be, extremely inconvenient and a pain. Just regardless, out of all that, it's just going to affect your life dramatically. And for that to be the only option is really sad. So she fortunately took a pause and took a beat and is like, I'm going to go get a second opinion. She ended up finding a Wellness Way office, and we ended up realizing, hey, there's something that is causing the inflammation. The body's inflamed. What is it? And so we ran through proper testing, got her food allergies run, and ran and did a deep dive into her stool test. I ran a GI comprehensive analysis of her stool, which is looking into the gut. And she ended up coming back with a certain amount of food allergies, but she ended up coming back with a food allergy to avocados. And avocados are a healthy food. I love avocados. I highly recommend, great source of fat, great to have in the mornings. I love avocados. However, she had a particular allergy to it, and that was inflaming her system. She was having them every day. So that's why all health food is not equal, right? We need to make sure we're very fine-tuned with the foods we're eating to make sure we're not having an individualized or a response to that, right? So we ended up running her food allergies, cut out her food allergies. We did a deep dive into her gut, got her on some supplementation to help support what's going on in her gut, and then ended up going back to her GI doc 6 months later. They did another scan, and this is what they found. They did another colonoscopy, and these pictures are beautiful. There's no redness, there's no blood, there's no nothing. It looks beautiful. And they were like, how did this even happen? This is incredible. And she knew why, because we got to the root cause of her symptoms. There's always, always, always a why, right? So that's kind of the point of what we do, to put you guys, empower you with education and the understanding of what is going on with your health. And yeah, no one should really be in charge of your health other than you. And that's, as Wellness Way practitioners, we're here to be your tour guide, to help you understand what's causing these triggers, give you the knowledge and the power that you need to make appropriate decisions for your health, right? All right, so let's transition into diagnosis. So when it comes to this book here is Rome 4. It's a standardized test that a set of diagnostic guidelines used to identify GI disorders. This is what a lot of docs use. This is kind of back in the day, and still to this day, it is all driven by symptom-based criteria to diagnose a GI condition. So that is a lot of what our healthcare system is nowadays. It is, here's a list of symptoms. You have enough of these symptoms. This equals this diagnosis. And now you are kind of labeled and isolated into this diagnosis. And then what happens is you kind of identify with it. It becomes a part of who you are. And if it's hard to heal from anything that you identify with. So that's why we don't really treat disease or treat diagnoses here. We are focused on bringing abnormal physiology, testing for abnormal physiology, and bringing you to normal physiology. The body was designed to heal, so we can test for where there's abnormal function and bring you back to restore that function. That's what it's all about, is restoring function, removing what is interfering with the body's ability to heal and function optimally, and boom, let the body do what it was designed to do, right? So symptom-based criteria to diagnose. It is not functional-based. It is not immune system-based. It is symptom-based. But that's how it's done. And in this kind of day and age, right? So when we look at this plant here, what does this plant need? This plant needs, we could all just like list out some things: water, right? Sunlight, some love, maybe, probably some plant fertilizer, right? We would all know kind of what to do. Even without a green thumb, you would know what kind of the basics, the fundamentals to help bring this plant back to, thriving, right? But you can do all these things and the plant is still struggling. And why would that be? We can still, that same thing with ourselves. We can be, taking care of ourselves, doing the best we can with the basics. And then sometimes we still walk around looking like a wilted plant and can't figure out why. Little did we know, your cat has been peeing in the dirt for the past 6 months on this plant in secret. And we're doing all the things. And this plant is struggling, removing the toxins. And that's why it so kind of remains wilted. Same thing for our body. That is our body in essence, is if we don't figure out what is making us sick, how are we going to get it to heal? And that's where obviously we're going to come back to getting comprehensive testing. So my challenge for you guys today is to think differently when it comes to the human body. I'm going to be bringing in a lot of analogies and yeah, a lot of analogies, a lot of metaphors, a lot of just honestly just even physiological, basic, fundamental physiological concepts that are really empowering and different from what mainstream medicine is teaching us. Our healthcare system is unfortunately a sick care system, and we spend more money on the healthcare system in America than anything than ever before, and yet we are as sick as we've ever been. There's more cancer than ever been before, more autoimmune, more hormonal disorders, more autism, more infertility. The list goes on and on and on. That's why I kind of say, and this is, the reality of it is like I will always have a job because there will always be sick people, and especially in America. And I love our country. I love America so much. I love living here. But when it comes to our food and the pharmaceuticals, all that kind of stuff, we definitely have missed the mark when it comes to really understanding what true healthcare is. So we're going to segue now into this analogy here, fireman and carpenter principle. So I'm going to paint the picture here. If you drive home, if you're at work right now, you drive home and your house is on fire, who you're going to call? You're going to call the fire department. Call 911. Fire department's going to come and they're going to use their tools. They're going to use an axe, they're going to use a hose, the right tools to put out the fire on the house, right? And then the fire is put out. Praise God. We've salvaged as much as we can, but the house is just absolutely, you look at the house and the fire department's like, great, I did my job, like awesome. However, the next morning, we're not going to wake up and call the fire department like, hey, can you help me rebuild and restore my house back to, how it was before, right? They don't have the tools for that. So they put out the fire, they did their job, and they look at the house like, great, I did my job, I put out a fire, we're good to go. However, you're not going to call them to help rebuild your house. You're going to call a carpenter, right? And that right there on the right side is more of the carpenter, the more of the wellness way approach. So there's the doctor or medical approach, I should say, is using prescription drugs, surgeries, medications to put out a fire you're dealing with, send you home happy, right? That fire is at bay. However, we end up calling a carpenter to rebuild our house. And that is where we step in, is we want to, first of all, help you understand what caused the fire to begin with, so another fire doesn't happen. And that's our goal. We use different tools, different testing, and just different approach. We're trying to rebuild, repair, prevent future fires, and also teach you how to build a healthy lifestyle to maintain your beautiful home, which is your body, right? We've given one body that is your forever home, and we want to steward it to the best of our ability to where we don't have these fires that keep happening. So, I love this quote. I say this in every talk I ever do. Listen to your body when it whispers so you don't have to hear it scream. And that is really what it's about, is what is causing, we want to listen to our body, be so in tune with our body, so that when it whispers to us, it is telling us something is wrong, right? Our body is a truth teller. It is unbiased, and it is going to tell us the truth. When we get in our car and our check engine light is on, we're not going to, we're not going to find the bulb and unscrew the bulb and just throw it away and disregard. That doesn't change the reality that our engine needs to be checked, right? If we just disregard that, then our whole car is just gonna break down in the middle of the highway, right? Leading to a lot worse things. So, but that little alarm, we understand when our car speaks to us, and our car isn't even alive, but when our body speaks to us, we end up normalizing it or neglecting it. What are some examples of these whispers? These are bloating after meals, headaches in the middle of the day, waking up feeling exhausted, severe period cramps, acid reflux. We're going to focus a lot on digestion and gut today. Severe fatigue, dead tired when you wake up, but then you're wired and tired at night. These are things that we just normalize as like, oh, it's just a part of being an adult. Sucks to be alive. This really, it is what it is. And then you just deal with it until later on in life, when it's been months and years of disregarding these signals our body's telling us, then it leads to more of these screams like the fire, PCOS, infertility, miscarriages, IBS, Crohn's, ulcerative colitis, diverticulitis, all these kind of serious things that end up now becoming a way bigger deal because we've neglected listening to our body for so long. Okay. So just because it's common does not mean it's normal. And those are very different words. Common and normal do not mean the same thing. We see a lot of all these symptoms and it's very common, but it is not normal for us to function like this day in, day out. All right, so we are going to hop into a bit of digestion and just kind of talk through what is the point of digestion. We're going to shift gears now and talk through the gut. So the point of digestion and our digestive system is to one, ingestion. We are ingesting the food. But it is more than just what goes in. When it comes to GI tract, it's more than what just goes in and what goes out. We ingest our food, so the food we are eating. We are then secreting, the digestive tract then secretes certain fluids, bile, digestive enzymes, things like that to support digestion through our accessory organs. We move things through our digestive tract. We need to break them down properly and then digest them and absorb the nutrients. You are not what you eat, you are what you absorb. So if our absorption is trash and we're not digesting our food properly, we're not actually getting the most out of the quality foods we're eating, hopefully. And then we need to eliminate the rest. Everything our body doesn't need, we eliminate it out, and we need to eliminate that quickly and make sure that is gone day in, day out. So ingestion, it doesn't just start with the mouth. We think like, oh, the beginning of digestion is really when we start eating. It actually starts with our thoughts, our sight, our smell. So in your mouth, you chew it down through a mechanical digestion and breakdown of food. But and your body uses saliva. The salivary glands uses saliva to produce saliva to help those enzymes, the salivary amylase, to break down carbs predominantly in our mouth. That's why carbs are easier to digest because they just require a salivary amylase pretty much. It starts the breakdown of foods before you even swallow it. So it's a lot about even our oral microbiome, how well our oral microbiome is. But also, it's important to be cooking the majority of your meals because really, when we start cooking our meals, we're thinking about food, we're chopping food, we're smelling food. That is literally waking up our digestive tract to start being like, hey, we're going to start eating here soon. So like wake up, it's time to go kind of thing, and preparing our body. Just like when we go to a workout, we shouldn't just jump into a heavy workout, right? We need to warm up our body. We're telling our brain, our body is telling our muscles like, hey, we're about to start moving here, about to start lifting heavy things, we're about to start running fast. You don't just jump straight into it. That's how you hurt yourself. So I'm sure we've all been there, right? So that's why it's so important to honestly cook a lot of your meals, if not 90% of them, so that you're honestly waking up that process to prepare, almost warm up your digestive tract to prepare for eating a steak or eating a meal or things like that, okay? So once in the mouth, there's a mechanical separation and the salivary enzymes like I talked about there. And then we get into secretion. So secretion is really like the saliva we already talked about. Those are being secreted out of those glands. Stomach acid. So that is when we start secreting stomach acid. And stomach acid is literally the reason I will preach on stomach acid for the rest of my life. It is the reason I am literally even here today doing a webinar on the gut because back when I was 24 years old, 23, 24, 25, I had a like myriad of health issues. And so much of them were my gut. I had esophageal reflux disease. I got endoscopy and a biopsy of my stomach. Came back with mild gastritis, but had silent reflux. I had laryngopharyngeal reflux, which is silent reflux. But basically, I was in chronic throat pain, severe acid reflux, severe heartburn. I'm 24 years old. Like I am relatively young, healthy female. For me to have these level of issues, I had to call out of school, call out of work. I was in so much pain. And I would go see doctor after doctor and they just like, oh, it's strep season, it's flu season. They were literally wanting to recommend antivirals, antibiotics just for like these level of symptoms. It turns out my stomach acid was so depleted that was what's triggering all of these symptoms, right? So it's all about getting to the root of it. And the biggest thing that depletes our stomach acid is stress. And we're going to talk about more of that here in a second. So once you swallow the food that goes down to the stomach, it then starts to begin as specifically protein breakdown. So the main reason we need to have really high stomach acid, we want to have a pH of 2.2, is because it one sterilizes the food we bring in. We have a natural sterilization process. And if our stomach acid is not high enough, it won't sterilize the food. Even if we're buying organic and wash our produce and things like that, there's things on, our food and things like that we still want to make sure we're sterilizing, right? Our pH of our stomach should be really acidic that if we were to like open up our stomach and put our finger in, we would come out without a finger, right? So that is like how acidic we want our stomach to be. And if it's not, it's going to lead to a lot of issues. So stomach acid is released when you eat protein specifically. So if you eat your proteins first, your body is better able to produce more stomach acid to break down things better as you eat throughout, okay? Stomach acid. So this is hypochlorhydria. Oh, I spelled that wrong. Sorry, guys. That is basically means low stomach acid, and that's what ends up people or end up being put on PPIs. So proton pump inhibitors. When I was 23 years old, I was prescribed PPIs because of my stomach acid issues and all my symptoms, which actually suppresses your stomach acid, which is the absolute opposite thing you want to do. If there's one, I would say put this in top three drugs as far as like if I could just remove entirely from ever, it would be PPIs, because PPIs lead to so many issues. It's one of the most common medications prescribed today. And there's a misconception that acid reflux is caused by too much stomach acid, when in reality, it is the opposite. If we have too little stomach acid, it doesn't go down our intestines appropriately, and then it ends up actually coming up into our throat. Our stomach acid, if we have enough levels, it's going to trigger our esophageal sphincter to open and close. But if we don't have as much, that esophageal sphincter just stays open. And that's the kind of stuff that leads to the stomach acid and the pepsin, the enzyme that breaks down protein, into our throat, into our esophagus. And that's why it's literally eating away at our throat. And that's why we see acid reflux, heartburn, throat pain in general, right? So it is absolutely crucial that we cut PPIs out of the diet, out of the mix, and make sure we're getting quality stomach acid levels. What is the biggest, like I said earlier, the biggest thing that causes hypochlorhydria, which is low stomach acid, is stress. Stress comes in all different forms. We're going to talk about the 3 types of stress later in this webinar. But I want to talk about just in general, mental, emotional stress and how it depletes our stomach acid. Our gut-brain axis, that's why they call it, is prominent. It's arguably the foundation of our entire health. We can always start with the gut. That's oftentimes 90% of the time when I'm working with patients for the first time, I'm starting with the gut, which is why, leading this webinar today. So what happens when our muscles when we get stressed? They get very tense, and stress can make our stomach more tense and not produce the stomach acid as well. So when we all already know we all have stress, then if many people end up developing acid reflux, then the medication can seem like a quick fix, but it ends up depleting the the stomach acid even more and more and more. And that's the kind of stuff that ends up leading to things like H. pylori or ulcerative colitis or things like that, where we're just depleting our stomach acid for so long. So I can talk about stomach acid for the next 40 minutes, but we're going to keep moving forward. But it is really the basis of understanding, the importance of digestion. Digestive enzymes are also secreted by our pancreas. You can actually test for this on a stool test. We're going to get to that later down the line. But digestive enzymes are, secreted by our pancreas. Our body naturally has digestive enzymes. So a lot of us take digestive enzymes, and there's definitely time and place for that. However, the thing that triggers our digestive enzymes is stomach acid. So it can always be brought back to the stomach acid, truly. It's your exocrine pancreatic insufficiency can lead to EPI if our pancreas is not secreting digestive enzymes well enough. And once again, that is triggered by stomach acid as well. And then same thing with bile as well. We'll kind of talk through this now. Bile is made in the liver and it's stored in the gallbladder and is triggered by stomach acid once again. So typically gallbladder issues, majority of the time, can be brought back to stomach acid issues. So just gallbladder attacks. Gallbladders, unfortunately, is one of the #1 most general surgeries and general surgeries in the US, and that is removal of the gallbladder, which is a cholecystectomy. There's approximately 750,000 to 1.2 million gallbladder removals every year in the United States. I just want to sit and digest that for a moment, no pun intended. There's something about that is just so even just from almost a moral perspective of there's something so wrong here that we are just thinking we have normalized removing organs from our body in the name of health. Oh, your issue is your organ, we need to remove it. And then there ends up being no support for after the organ removal as well too. So if you're on a PPI and you're not creating enough stomach acid, the gallbladder release is then low. And then the whole digestive system starts to go south. So you see how it's just one thing that's off. Oh, I'm having a bit of acid reflux. That's that little whisper, right? If we disregard that or suppress it with PPIs, then it leads to more and more the bile flow being an issue. And then that's going to lead to gallbladder issues. That's, gallbladder stones or gallstones, gallbladder attacks. It just goes on and on and on. And then how that affects our hormones, I could go on about that. So just goes to show how we must not disregard the little signals our body is speaking to us. Yeah, and if we don't have your gallbladder anymore, we're not going to be able to emulsify fats properly, which is needed to be able to properly utilize the fats for numerous functions in the body. So eating fats does not mean storing more fat. Fat does not make you fat. Sugar makes you fat. And other things as well. I don't want to oversimplify it, but if we're going to oversimplify it there. Fats is so, so, so important to every system of our body. It lines our cells, our nerves, makes up a majority of our brain. Majority of our brain is fat. And that's the kind of stuff that ends up leading to Alzheimer's dementia. If we have one, not going to talk too much about cholesterol, but if we're on statins, reducing our cholesterol for decades to come, please look up the link between or the statistics around those that are diagnosed with Alzheimer's dementia and those that are on statins. It's prominent. But we need fat it's the backbone for our sex hormones, for energy. We need fats. And then low fat absorption from not having a gallbladder, it lessens our hormones, our brain, and more. So it is going to lead to people with, struggling with brain fog, fatigue, low energy, memory decline, hormone imbalances, so much so. Just to speak to what I just said, my grandma was literally diagnosed last week with early stages of Alzheimer's dementia. She's been on a statin for the last 20 years, and her cholesterol is not even that bad. And I won't get into cholesterol too much, but that just goes to show how much every system in the body is connected and how crucial every system is. So motility. Motility is the movement of food throughout the digestive tract. So the stomach is not able to, if the stomach's not able to push things through, the movement slows down. The mucus lining starts to thin. We want to think of our digestive tract like a water slide. And then if we have spots along that water slide that slow down or get stuck and build up, that's the kind of stuff that leads to constipation. Constipation is, I've heard someone say it is the mother of all disease is constipation. Toxins end up being in our system, and our toxins and detoxified hormones linger longer in our GI and then have more time to get reabsorbed if they're not properly eliminated and appropriately, right? So that's the whole point, is we want to defecate and get rid of excess hormone toxins. The body's doing all the hard work to naturally detox in our body. If we're not getting rid of it, then we just reabsorb it, and it leads to a plethora of issues. Diarrhea and constipation end up presenting back and forth. Think about what happens when there's like kind of bulges in the GI tract, things like that. When we look at the only thing that can really go over a dam, and we think about that, is water, right? So if we have a blockage or a slowdown of constipation, that's why people go from constipated to diarrhea, constipated diarrhea. So we should not be going. I have a lot of patients who go once, twice a week, and they're like, yeah. I'm like, how often are bowel movements? Oh, like once every couple days. I'm like, oh, no. We are constipated. If you are not going 2 to 3 times a day, you are constipated, point blank. So that is arguably one of the most important things we can do for our health, is making sure we're having regular bowel movements. So yeah, just goes to show the importance of motility and making sure there is no gastroparesis, which is basically the movement or the slowing of the movement of the stool, the bulk of the stool throughout our intestines. All right, absorption. So once again, like I said, you are not what you eat, you are what you absorb. We can have the most perfect diet, like to a T, and still have nutritional deficiencies and insufficiencies if we're not absorbing it well. And that always comes back to the gut. A lot of issues like anemic patients, low iron, low ferritin is actually an absorption issue. We're getting plenty of red meat or even taking iron, and then our iron levels are so low. Well, we're not properly absorbing the iron in our diet. So here's a nice close-up picture of the intestinal lining with the mucus lining kind of along this tract here. The cells should be on the left side here. The cells should be nice and close together to maintain a barrier. I always like to kind of like show my hands like this in between my fingers. It should be nice and tight from the tube of our esophagus all the way down our body. It should be really, really tight. And we don't want to have any like gaps in between those. We don't want it to open up like this, right? That's the kind of stuff that leads to a leaky gut. And so that's going to kind of make it difficult for us to absorb nutrients in the cells, and leading to as we get more inflamed. As looking over to the right, that's where we see those gap junctions open up, and then foods we're eating end up getting into our bloodstream. So the food we eat should not end up in our bloodstream, should not end up at all. And that's the kind of stuff that leads to food allergies, things like that. We'll talk about that here. So when the gut barrier breaks down, there are certain triggers. That gluten is a huge one, a huge trigger. If there's one thing you take away from this, if you're just going to make one change to your life, cut out gluten. especially my autoimmune patients, I'm like, gluten's got to go stat. But if, yeah, so gluten, reactive foods, like looking into food allergies, microorganisms, obviously if we're fighting off a bacterial infection, things like that, toxins, that's going to get into our, through those gap junctions and get into our bloodstream. And then our immune system is now in the mix. And that's how we end up leading to a lot of food allergies. So that's why it's so important to check food allergies to see what foods are we eating that are inflaming us on a regular basis. All right, elimination. So this is kind of talking about here. We see the intestinal tract. This is where constipation, will thrive if we are not getting rid of the stool. We can learn a great deal from phase 3 of detox, which is the toilet, essentially. If you are using the bathroom and it is your stool is super smelly, or even your gas is really, really smelly, it's telling me that is just your food has just been sitting, the food, or not, I shouldn't say the food, I guess so. The food that we've broken down is been sitting in your GI for a long time. And that's the kind of stuff that leads to really smelly stool and smelly farts, I should say. If it's more airy gas, that's telling me we're not digesting our carbs really well. So just being mindful of that, what our consistency and just what our stools are like when you use the bathroom. Constipation, diarrhea, if we're constantly like our stool is like liquid, we're not absorbing anything, we're just pooping it right out. So that's not good either. We don't want to just eat it and then go out of our system. We want to really absorb all the good things and then get rid of all the bad. This is why I love going on digestive walks. So after every meal you eat, the worst thing you can do is to sit for an extended amount of time. Or the worst thing you do is eat really late and then go right to bed. Your body is now working on digesting your food. We need to give it time to do that before then we lay horizontal, or we just are sedentary. We, once again, like I finish my meal and then I go on a 10-minute walk. 5 to 10 minutes, it doesn't have to be anything crazy. If you do that 3 times a day, one, we're supporting our digestion, and lymphatic drainage. One of the greatest lymphatic tools you can do is walk. But 2, we are now getting 30 minutes of steps in a day. So it's just a simple way, a lot of different like little habits like that build up over time that curate a beautiful lifestyle for your health. If your stool is floating, this is a huge indicator that we are having fat malabsorption. So it means that our gallbladder is not as active, and we're not absorbing our fats well. I just kind of talked about the detriment of not absorbing our fats and how important it is. If you're seeing large food particles in your stool, you're not breaking it down. We're just pooping it out. So that is no bueno. Looking at the color of your stool. Sorry, this is the grossest part of this webinar. Just, yeah, notice that if it's shades, we want to see shades of brown, green, tan, white, it indicates the gallbladder is struggling here. Black, that means there may be some blood in there, which typically indicates hemorrhoids, internal hemorrhoids, things like that. Or more if it's like darker blood, that could be more of an upper intestinal issue as well. Red, maybe you ate, it doesn't always mean blood, but maybe you ate some beets. That's always something that can kind of affect your stool as well. So don't freak out if you eat a lot of beets or something and your stool is red. That's probably what that's related to. Yeah, so you basically want your stool to be like a chocolate soft serve ice cream. Sounds kind of gross, but this is what it is. And also too, we have to normalize talking about poop. We really, really do, because the colon cancer has just skyrocketed, and colon cancer is definitely something that can be prevented. But I think there's such a stigma around talking around poop and the digestive and the bathroom and our digestive tract that we don't want to talk about it. So then we just live in misery for so long. And then look at the colon cancer, kind of how much those have skyrocketed as well. All right, digestion. So once again, we just talked through ingestion, secretion, motility, digestion, absorption, elimination. And then a lot of this brings into how it affects our immune function and endocrine signaling. This is what I love about the body, is everything is connected. And when we are having digestive issues, it's going to affect our immune system and it's going to affect our hormones. So the immune system issues we're having could be could be a gut issue. Same thing with our hormone issues. Food should cause zero stress. It should be organic, non-toxic. It should not be wreak havoc and inflammation on our body. But if there's inflammation from stressors, the 3 different T's we'll talk about in a second, And that can lead to a lot of immune dysfunction as well, too. This is why I'm always recommending shopping the Dirty Dozen or the Clean 15. I would write that down. Dirty Dozen is basically the foods that every year they come out with a new list of the, the year 2026, the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15, a list of 12 different foods that you should always be buying organic. Berries are, I just off the top of my mind, berries, blackberries, or blueberries, blackberries, strawberries is a huge one. If you buy non-organic strawberries, you could essentially squeeze them onto produce and that be the pesticides, like straight up. That is how bad strawberries are if you're and they're great for you, but we want to make sure we're buying them organic. So there's foods that you should not even touch if they're not organic on that Dirty Dozen list. Clean 15, you can get away with a little bit more. The one that comes to mind is avocados. Avocados are a bit more okay. You can buy them non-organic and it won't be as detrimental to the system as well. Organic definitely gets pricey, but so that's where you can use that tool, Clean 15 versus Dirty Dozen, to help you when you are shopping, to kind of make it a more manageable for you as well too. So that gut feeling, and to say that gut feeling when we're like, oh, I have a gut feeling about something, that truly is your gut. Your gut is your second brain. And we want to listen to that because that once again is your body telling us something as well. So that's why there's so many mental health issues are often, and anxiety, depression is often tied to our gut as well too. So gut problems, other things as well. Autoimmune deficiency, autoimmune, that I always, if someone comes in with lupus or ulcerative colitis or Lyme disease, like you name it, any kind of autoimmune, Hashimoto's, thyroid issues, I always start with the gut because it often ends up being triggered by gut issues to begin with. We start seeing more symptoms more than ever these days, and our body's trying to communicate to us. Mental health, like I just talked about, most of the northern states, and vitamin D, mental health and vitamin D is a huge correlation. We want to make sure we're getting our vitamin D levels up. Most of the northern states are not getting enough vitamin D naturally and have to supplement with D3, K2, right? And vitamin D is a precursor to serotonin, which is our happy hormone. And 80 to 90% of our serotonin is made in our gut. So just goes to show if we're struggling with anxiety, depression, we're just overall feeling just apathetic to life. Oftentimes, that's very nuanced, let me just say, but oftentimes we want to start with the gut because if our gut is disrupted and we're not able to produce enough serotonin, then we are not going to be able to feel happy, truly. And a lot of that just comes down to looking to the gut. So we're not going to be able to make our serotonin happiness very well if our stomach acid issues are poor, if our gallbladder function is poor, if we have parasites, bacterial infections, all that kind of stuff, you name it. All right, here's another patient kind of spotlight here. So this is Mark. He had bleeding eczema. So literally on the left here, you see his hands are just bleeding, scabbed, really tough. It's tough because he's a traveling salesman. So when you make sales, make close deals, whatever, clearly not in that world. When you close deals, you shake hands, right? That's what his hands look like. Obviously, he's not wanting to do that. So he just wasn't able to do these things. He actually had to get a custom steering wheel cover because it was so painful, like his eczema was. His wife worked at a Nature Way supplement company, if you guys have seen Nature Way. So he's taking a bunch of those supplements, but his hands were still kind of looking the same. He ended up going to the dermatologist and they put him on, what do we think they put him on? A steroid cream, right? So to suppress the immune system, this is an immune response. So his hands having this reaction is the immune system responding to something, okay? The natural medical approach is, ooh, that immune response is bad. Let's turn it off. Let's turn off the immune system. So was rubbing steroid cream, and what do we think happened to his hands? Looked great, went away. But if he when he would run out of his steroid cream, what would happen? They'd come back. So this is just suppressing the immune response. You're not getting to the root cause. So when Mark came in, we did further testing. We ran he had some delayed IgG food allergies that he cut out of his diet. He also had a parasitic infection. The skin, I like to say the skin is the window to the gut. So there's skin issues, eczema, acne, psoriasis. We always want to look into the gut first and clear out the bacterial infections, parasites, things like that. And then after a couple months, boom, those are what his hands look like on the right. It just goes like, I just love patient ones like this because it really is, I think we can overcomplicate our health. We can overcomplicate our body. And it's not actually as complicated as we think it is. And simple understanding of this, hey, there's something that's triggering you. Let's figure out what's triggering you, remove the trigger, and boom, look what the body does. So kind of like I've been alluding to this whole webinar, The Swiss watch principle. This is how the body works. When we think about a watch, there's all these different gears. When I go home and open up my Rolex and I see all these little gears. That's a joke. I do not have a Rolex. But we see all these little gears and they all are moving in conjunction. When one gear moves, the rest of the gears move, right? And think about if I were to open up my Rolex and go in and shift just one of those little gears, what do we think would end up? And then I close my watch. What do we think would end up happening to the time? The time would maybe at first be a couple seconds off, a couple days, it'd be a couple minutes off, but several months, we're telling a whole new time. We're in AM versus PM, right? So I guess you don't really see AM, PM on a clock like this, but you know what I mean, or watch like that. So it just goes to show that's a beautiful example and analogy of how the body works is if one system of the body is slightly going to be altered, it's going to over time affect every system in the body, right? But the nervous system is the master gear of the body. We have to look at the nervous system first because it controls everything else. Our central nervous system is arguably the most important system of the body. But it doesn't work alone. So these are all the different gears of the body here, just different systems of the body. And we're talking a lot about digestive system today, the upper right corner. Bottom gear there is the immune system. But once again, all of these, we just looked at integumentary system by looking at the skin. All of these systems work in conjunction with one another. But what's happened is the medical field has separated out the body. So it's been like, oh, you have a digestive system issue, go to your GI doc. You have an integumentary system issue, go to your dermatologist. You have a cardiovascular issue, circulatory system issue, you go to your heart doctor. And everything is separated out like we're a machine and we need to focus on this one gear. And what medical specialists are is they know a lot, more and more about less and less. And so when in reality, we look at the body as a whole. And just think about ladies, we can understand if you're watching this and you're a cycling female, can our hormones affect our brain? Let's think right before our period comes and we're just absolutely our husband breathes the wrong way or something, or empties or loads the dishwasher the wrong way. And we feel crazy, right? That just goes to show what's happening hormonally is affecting our brain. Let's think about if our digestive system is going to affect our skin. Like we just talked about that. He had digestive issues and immune system issues and it's affecting his skin. So I could go on and on about the list of different things that are going to impact one another. And when you understand this principle, you can understand your body. And it is so freeing when you understand this principle truly. All right, what causes inflammations? There's initial pictures at the beginning of this. We were looking at inflammation. The woman, she was super inflamed. So what causes inflammation? There's 3 different stressors. The 3 T's are known as, this is the chiropractic philosophy. I am a chiropractor, and a lot of the basis of what the Wellness Way does is the chiropractic philosophy, which is the 3 T's. This has been around for the last 100 years, okay? Trauma, toxins, and thoughts. These are the 3 things that can be boiled down to the root of your health issues. Traumas. This is, this left picture here is looking at her spine. So showing us what any physical trauma, accidents, injuries, car accidents, daily stressors, like we're always carrying our backpack or a purse on one side. It's kind of leading to a trauma of the spine. How we're sleeping. If we're sleeping on our stomach every night for 8 to 10 hours a night, and our head is cocked to the side, that's a huge stress to the spine, which houses our nervous system, right? So it can really be brought back to the nervous system. Toxins can be our chemicals. So we're looking at what is intoxicating the system. Is it food allergies? Is it parasites? Is it mold? Is it heavy metals? Is it medications? What's intoxicating the system? We want to remove those toxins. Thoughts. This is when we think about stress, we think about thoughts, mental, emotional stress. Losing a job, losing a loved one, a toxic relationship, these kinds of stressors that can wreak havoc on our body. That's why mental health and physical health are one and the same. You cannot separate them. They have to be addressed directly with one another. All right, key ingredients to avoid. I would take a picture of this. Regardless of who you are, these need to be out of the diet. So hydrogenated or partially hydrogenated oils, so trans fats, seed oils are something that we want to cut out. So things like cooking with canola oil, vegetable oil, sunflower oil, peanut oil, like these kinds of oils that are not good to cook with. I recommend cooking with ideally animal fats like beef tallow, duck fat, ghee, grass-fed butter, those kind of oils, because they have a higher smoke point. So they're not going to become rancid or inflammatory when you heat them up at high amounts, right? Other than that, I'd recommend avocado oil or coconut oil with cooking with, okay? Even extra virgin olive oil, amazing for you, a quality extra virgin olive oil. However, you want to use that cold on salads or things like that. I will literally take a shot of olive oil with lemon juice in the mornings, a great kind of boost of fat into my, when my day gets started. But olive oil with heated up to a certain point can end up becoming rancid and inflammatory as well. MSG is something that is the brain. Glutamate is very excitatory to the brain, which was what makes those kind of foods that are high in MSG very addictive, right? And it's just like, oh my gosh, I just need more. This is so good. I need more. I need more. I need more. It's actually a neurotransmitter affecting the brain. High fructose corn syrup, without a doubt. Fructose in general, this should just be out of the diet. Anything you look at ingredient labels says high fructose corn syrup, just put it back down respectfully. Agave syrup actually is very high in fructose as well. So that's why I never recommend agave for sweetening things. Enriched white sugar or flour. Aspartame and Splenda, those are both known neurotoxins and disruptors of the gut as well. So we want to cut those out. I'm a bigger fan of birch, xylitol, monk fruit, stevia, things like that are natural roots that are going to give you a bit of that sweetness without it affecting our body. Sugar in general, like I said, sugar is, if you're going to cut one thing out, well, gluten and sugar, honestly. Refined sugar, added sugars, those are detrimental to our health. They're highly addictive. The sugar is more addictive than cocaine, but that's not talked about, right? We could talk all of it, like, judge people that have addiction to cocaine, let's say. But we see it all across our nation of the highly addictive substance that is sugar, but it is just normalized. Vegetable oil, canola oil, just talked about that. Artificial flavors and colors, especially if it's so much of that found in our kids' foods. And then we wonder why our kids can't, sit straight. They have ADHD, ADD, autism, all these kinds of things. There's just so much going on in their little brain, developing brain. We want to make sure we protect that big time. Spices really brought back to really just MSGs, palm oil and soy. Soy protein isolate. So soy is I'm not going to go down too much of this, but basically, I like to say we don't want to be soy boys. So men, soy can act as a phytoestrogen or a pseudoestrogen and can affect our hormones and affect our estrogen levels. So especially if there's any estrogen dominance or any estrogen issues, and then men just shouldn't be eating soy in general. So definitely want to cut out soy from the diet. All right. I want to talk a little bit about marketing and kind of like greenwashing is a bit of what we see in certain foods and things like that in our products. But when we look at Nutrigrain bars growing up, I mean, I ate these before like every basketball practice and I thought I was doing something great for my body. Nutrigrain, we can look, raspberry, soft baked, grains, like things like that. Good source of calcium, whole greens, all this kind of stuff. But when we look at the ingredient labels, I always say turn and learn. We want to look at this, the whatever it is you're buying, and then look at the back. If there is a novel there written, a love letter written to you, just go ahead and politely put it back. I don't even need to read it. It's just like, I don't need to read, right? But I'm going to just start reading some things off of this ingredient list. And tell me how many times you hear me say sugar. So filling: raspberry preserves, high fructose corn syrup, raspberries, corn syrup, high fructose, corn syrup, glycerin, fructose, sugar. By the way, fructose is this kind of sugar. Maltodextrin, natural and artificial. Like it just goes on and on where it's like, I don't even know how to pronounce some of these words, right? And then also we get down to red number 1, number 40, blue number 1. I personally don't want to be eating colors and numbers in my food, right? That doesn't make sense. So we want to make sure red 40 is actually tied to hyperactivity in various types of cancer. Blue 1 is actually tied to hyperactivity, chromosomal damage, kidney tumors, and asthma. So this is once again a reason why these should not be in the diet for anyone, but especially with kids. And then we're being taught that this food is good. And yeah, do they really? Kellogg's and the American Heart Association are associated with one another, but do they really care about health, or is it wealth, right? Because if they truly cared about health, we wouldn't be eating foods that are not real. All right, so this is a foodology test. So we're going to get into some examples of testing that we run here in the office that are a game changer. I always get at some point in my patient's care, we're going to run a foodology test on them. It's such a simple way to cut back on inflammation very, very quickly, and it's very in our control. So this is a patient, Amber. She was 35 at the time. She came back with 35 food allergies. She was having headaches, digestive issues, fatigue, brain fog, a plethora of issues. And we ran her food allergies. She had 35 IgG allergies. Let me also say that when someone comes back with this many food allergies, my immediate thought is she also has leaky gut because so many of the lining of her gut has kind of opened up a bit, and so many of these foods now are getting into her system, in her immune system or into her bloodstream. And now the body is like, whoa, what are you doing here? The body can't tell a difference between this ginger allergy that's now in her food, in her bloodstream, and the flu. So we need to make sure we are making sure our foods are not what is causing any inflammation in our body. So we can support the body in calming down the inflammatory response and getting it to heal if we keep these foods out of the diet. And once we do a great job of avoiding these and rebuild, we also ran a stool test on her as well. She really committed to care, worked on her gut, healed the lining of her gut. And then we end up retesting this a year later, and boom, came down to 9 food allergies, which is phenomenal. This is like goals right here when it comes an ideal patient response is they really commit to care. And this stuff takes time. We ran these food allergies a year from one another. So it's not just like cut these out, boom, we're good. After a month, we're good to go. Like healing the gut, the immune system, it takes time, and we want to make sure we're really committed to care when it comes to reaching our health goals. So it just goes to show how the immune system is always adapting. The lining of the gut now is healed. She no longer has leaky gut, and we have removed a lot of the triggers that were causing her issues. One of my favorite tests, honestly, probably my most favorite test, honestly. I love a stool test. It is our least sexy test. It is done via stool. So it is a stool sample. You'd collect it at home. 1 day stool sample, ship it out. We get emailed the results. Okay. So these are just some screenshots of some of the results, right? So this is showing us here a bit of how well our body is breaking down, digesting, absorbing our nutrients. So how well we're breaking down protein. Are we absorbing them and breaking them down, or are we just pooping them out and we're not getting the benefits of the protein we need? Same thing with our fats. How is our pancreatic elastase functioning? That is a digestive enzyme that, once again, is triggered by stomach acid. This whole first section here, my mind is thinking stomach acid. If we are pooping out a lot of our protein and fat, if we have no pancreatic elastase, then our stomach acid is certainly poor, and we're going to work on stomach acid and talk about stress. Inflammation and immunology, this section here, calprotectin, EPX, fecal secretory IgA, are all inflammatory markers. It gives us some indication of how inflamed is our system. You can see here her fecal secretory IgA was really, really high. That tells us her immune system is responding to something, and we need to figure out what's triggering that immune system. Calprotectin and EPX are involved more if there's a severe immunological digestive issue like ulcerative colitis, Crohn's, things like that. EPX is often tied to parasites, molds, and IgE allergies. So just gives us this is information that's telling us as the provider, this is the direction to go. This is how we remove these triggers to get the support we're looking for. Commensal abundance, this is essentially, we look at the amount of bacteria and distribution of them in the microbiome. So we want to have plenty of microbes in our gut, trillions of microbes, but you can also have a microbiome overgrowth, which can lead to a lot of issues as well. And you can also have a deficiency. So we don't want to have too little. We don't have too much. We want to be in this kind of perfect Goldilocks era, which I like to call this next page the Goldilocks page, because it showcases how well are our bacterium looking. This one on the left, everything is a nice balance, and the one on the right, everything is overgrown. So you can actually have an overgrowth of good bacteria. This is why probiotics should not just be given to anyone. And they're like, oh, my gut's kind of disrupted. I'm having some bloating, gas. Let me take a probiotic and see it helps. And some people it helps. Some people it makes them worse. This page on the right, you see everything is so overgrown, like tremendously overgrown. She would be someone that would not need a probiotic, and if anything, would make her worse. So the overgrowth can lead to chaos. And when we have with our gut, this is called dysbiosis. So if there's a dysbiosis, we want to make sure we are addressing that. There's something called SIBO, which is small intestine bacterial overgrowth, that can lead to a lot of bloating, constipation, these kind of issues. That's why a probiotic would not be beneficial. You see in this bottom right corner, the Methanobrevibacter smithii. This is something that, if overgrown, which she is, we are seeing that is a predominant methane producing bacterium in our gut. We produce a lot of methane in our gut. That's what leads to literal gas in our stomach. And we just feel so bloated and look 6 months pregnant all the time. And that is not a way that we want to live, right? The next culture here is measuring overgrown opportunistic bacteria and yeast and fungal overgrowth. So this particular person had 6 bacterial infections. This allows us to see if there's any infections, right? And it also measures their strength and which are taking over more than others. So maybe it's not just a food issue and an inflammatory issue from the food you're eating, but a bacteria balance as well. This bottom section here, I don't know if I have an next, no, would show us under mycology, would show us if there's a yeast overgrowth. So if there's any candida, or not all yeast is candida either. So if you have a candida overgrowth, I see that a lot with thrush patients with chronic UTIs, yeast infections, things like that. We always want to, or sugar addiction. If we are craving sugar left and right, and it's like controlling us, that is often a sign of yeast overgrowth as well. Next page here is showing us if there's any parasites. So this person had moderate blastocystis. So these are a particular type of protozoa, particular type of parasite. We would then want to put this person on a parasite detox. Everyone has parasites. Everyone has bacteria, parasites, yeast, viruses in their gut. It's not a matter of if they're there. It is a matter if they're overgrown and creating havoc on the immune system in the gut. So not everyone should go on a parasite detox. Parasites are kind of a trending thing. It's like, oh, I need to go on a parasite detox. Well, I don't do that with patients unless they come back with an overgrowth of moderate or many detected particular parasites. It's not fun to go on a parasite detox. So I definitely would not put anyone on it just for the sake of it's kind of a trending topic. And then one test that we include with every new patient is if they're able to, if they're in person, I should say, is x-rays. So, I'm a chiropractor, so I'm going to do a full set of spinal x-rays to look at the spine specifically, but we can also see just GI inflammation as well. You see that around the spine, we can show high signs of GI inflammation. You see, just literally can see the outlining of this person's intestines. And we shouldn't be seeing that. That black kind of splotchiness is bloating, inflammation, gas, stool. We want to make sure that is not in the system. So this would be something even on the new patient appointment. If I'm already thinking, yeah, we should run food allergies, we should run stool, then I take their x-rays and it comes back like this, I will literally show my patient, hey, this is what's going on in your GI. We got to get this addressed, right? So oftentimes too, especially with women that are trying to lose weight, it's not actually an adipose tissue issue. It's not actually a fat issue. It is an inflammation issue. You feel 6 months pregnant, you're not actually particularly maybe overweight or over fat. It could very well be just the gut is inflamed, and we've got to address one of the greatest things you can do as far as glowing up is address your gut, hands down. So then we went on a detox, cut out food allergies, ran a stool test, and this is what their next x-rays came back as. So this goes to show there's so many different tests we can do to give us some more insight as far as what exactly is going on. And it's really simple. It truly, truly is. That's why I love what I do. We really have overcomplicated health, but simple testing just gives us the answers. And that's the biggest thing. It's not just about giving my patients answers. It is about giving them hope. I remember when I was so down bad, when I was 23, 24, 25, sick as a dog, and I felt like I had no, I went to specialist after specialist after specialist, and all they handed me was medications. Here's birth control, here's omeprazole, here's Zantac, here's take Benefiber, here, take more Tums. Like no one could give me answers, and that resulted in no hope. That is why we end up kind of giving up on our health and giving up on life. It's at times it's just like, I don't feel like I just have to live with this the rest of my life. I'm 23 years old and I feel miserable. I wake up every day. I'm in pain. I'm bloated. I'm constipated. I feel miserable. Like, why would I keep doing this kind of thing? Right. And that's the power of really simplifying the health and understanding we don't guess, we test. And that's why testing is going to be the game changer when it comes to your health and just giving patients hope. That's what we say. We're hope dealers. We're dealing out hope because there's always a why. And that's why I love what I do, because I get to sit across from people and be like, we have answers coming. Their hope is coming, and do not give up on yourself, because we just committing to care with one another. We're partnering in care, and to get you feeling good back to how God designed you to be. And yeah, live the best life that you can live. So for those that are on here today that are not already patients, I have patients that are you're already on here, just learning more about the gut from me, or, new people that have never been a patient of mine, where do we go from here? If you're like, okay, she just described everything I'm feeling. Maybe this woman can help me. What do? We schedule a new patient appointment. So if you are in person, or whether you're in person or virtual, I have a lot of virtual patients. This includes a comprehensive exam and a deep dive into your health history. So if you have past labs, a review of any external labs, if you have recent labs in the last 6 months, year, maybe 2 years, I recommend sending those into me or bringing those into me. I would love to just kind of, the more information, the better. And that gives me some direction to go as far as recommendation of specific labs. So then based on your deep dive into your health history, I always say I want to know everything about you, because I truly, every system, every aspect of your life is going to impact your health. And we want to lead with what are the potential primary issues, and what we can focus on testing wise to get the best kind of bang for our buck starting out, if you will, without lack of better terminology there. So if you are in person as well, we're going to do a full set of spinal x-rays, the one we just shown, except it's 8 different x-rays to see the full spine. I am a chiropractor, so there's the chiropractic nervous system component of this. If you're in person with me, and we set that at a later date where we're going to go through that report of findings, that's included as well in that new patient appointment. Also, too, if you're in person, we include a insight scans, which are assessing the spinal x-rays are showing us the structure of the nervous system, whereas the insight scans is showing us the function of the nervous system. How is our stress response? What is our autonomic nervous system looking like? And it just shows us, actually measuring stress on the body. So that is all included in our new patient appointments. We are now offering kind of a special offer here, as far as normally our new patient appointments have been $199. Today they're included at $99. And it's included a review of health history. Like I said, this is all just kind of redundant here. This is just a bit of a way to kind of move forward. We are offering kind of a special offer where if you book your new patient appointment, it says tonight, but today, and within the next 48 hours, that appointment doesn't have to be in the next 2 days, but if you schedule it within the next 48 hours, I should say, you can call in, schedule online, whatever it may be. You get $100 toward a credit towards whatever lab testing I'm recommending. So if, say out of the gate, you're like the stories I've been sharing, you've got a lot of gut immune system issues, skin issues. We can put that $100 towards a food allergy test or your stool test, whatever it may be. So that is a great deal as far as just essentially it's kind of, free to start because you're paying $99, but you get $100 towards care. And that's what it's all about, is just getting to proper diagnostic comprehensive testing to get you the answers you're looking for. So this is just saying the no, those that are not already, or if you're a patient of ours or not, I recommend following us on social media. Our Instagram, Facebook, TikTok is the Wellness Way Sarasota. We post a lot of educational content and just tips and tricks, just to support your lifestyle and your health. And if that's even like just the place you want to start, I have patients who have been following us for years and they finally are like ready to commit to, getting to the root cause of their health. They're done living in misery and all their symptoms. They're not just going away on their own. And they give us a call and they've been following us for years. So at the bare minimum, follow us on social media. I'm going to go ahead and stop this now. And if there's any questions, anything for those online, feel free to type them in the chat. And we'll set up a time for Q&A. If there's no questions or anything from me, then we can wrap things up. Thank you guys so much for watching and joining. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions, and would love to answer anything. So let me just pull up the chat real quick. See. Okay. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and hopefully we'll see you in the office or virtually here soon. Bye.